Hello, Popsy folks. I'm just kidding. I'm not actually English. My name is Skyy, and this is my channel, Skyy Reads. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, if you guys watched my last video on Lammed by Colleen Hoover, then you will know that I have made a deal with myself. I have made a contract. I have made a sacred covenant with myself to finish all of the books in my room. And that I started this YouTube channel in order to document my progress. So the book that I read most recently is The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. I wish that I had the book with me right now to hold up in front of you. However, I allowed one of my friends to borrow it because they were looking for something to read, and I did not think that, I would need it for this video for some reason. But nonetheless. Okay, here is my non-spoilery review of the book. I really enjoyed this book. So first of all, The Mysterious Benedict Society is a middle grade novel about a group of genius children who are gathered to form a secret society by Mr. Benedict. So all of the children are incredibly talented and intelligent as well. And the reason that Mr. Benedict has decided to start this society is because he needs them to save the world. So it is an adventure mystery novel. Now, I really enjoyed this book. I rated it 5 stars on the story graph. I just think that it was incredible storytelling. I felt that it was very well laid out and very well structured, and that the author did such an amazing job of unfolding the mystery. And even though the book is geared toward 12-year-olds, I believe that anyone of any age will enjoy this book, particularly because it is better written and better structured than 90% of the books out there that are geared toward young adults and adults as well. So that was the end of my non-spoilery section. Getting to the spoiler section. Like I said, I really thought that the author did such a really great job of steadily unfolding the mystery and then starting to unfold the solving of the mystery as well. It was incredibly well paced, and not only that, but I really appreciated the setup and payoff of the book as well. There is literally nothing in this book that is set up that is not later paid off, if that makes sense. So for example, Kate's bucket, if I am not mistaken, Kate uses every single item in her bucket at least once throughout the story, which I found to be very impressive. Because a lot of times in a movie or a TV show, they will bring up an object or a concept or something, and as the reader, you're like, oh, that's really going to be helpful later on in the story. And then later on, it is never brought up again. And usually what's really funny about that is that there are situations that would have been really perfect for them to use whatever object they set up later or they had set up earlier. But again, that was not the case with this particular book. Kate used every single at one point in the story, and that's just one of the different things. In addition to that, I really loved how ingenious and resourceful Kate's character was as well. She was just so creative. She was one of those characters who could definitely is always thinking outside of the box and is always going to come up with a solution that no one else is ever going to come up with or think of. And I really, really appreciated that about her character as well. Moving forward to Rainy, I really appreciated how throughout the book, Rainy had a lot of internal conflict within himself, and he had a lot of kind of struggles with, where is his allegiance, and, he had a lot of questions about his own character and even sometimes his own worth. And another really great example of how the author sets things up to be returned to later, I really, really loved the chess piece analogy that was given as well. So when they had been taking the test to test into the mysterious Benedict Society, there was a horse. It was like a black knight that was out, and none of the other pieces had moved. And the only way that could have happened was if like the white's opening move had been to move out the chess piece and then to put it back in the next turn, and it was because he had doubted himself. And then later on, Rainy had also, he had doubted himself, and Mr. Benedict brought that up. And so I thought that was, again, one of those beautiful pieces that really tie together. I didn't really have a lot of opinions on Skyy's character. And then Constance was absolutely my favorite character in this book. She was so witty with her words, which is something that I really appreciate in characters, and that I also appreciate in authors as well. So that definitely made her one of my favorite characters. And then also, so at the beginning of the book, when they're all telling their backstories, and Kate tells her backstory, and then Milligan tells his backstory, I immediately was like, okay, so Milligan is Kate's dad, right? And even though I kind of already knew that and had thought about that, at the end of the story, when it was revealed, I teared up. I was like, oh, like, even though I knew that Milligan was Kate's dad, it was so, I don't know, it just made me happy. It just made me happy. So that being said, throughout the story, I kept wondering what Constance's purpose was in the story. She, all of the other characters, the students, they all seemed to be there for a reason. So, for example, Rainy is really good at solving puzzles, and Skyyy has a perfect memory, and Kate is an acrobat, athlete, gymnast, person, right? All of them seem to have like a great value to the story, whereas Constance really, to me, just kind of seemed to be there. Constance's points up until then had just seemed that it was very convenient to have a fourth person at times. So, a fourth person to be the lookout while the other three people were doing things, compared to at the end when she was resisting Mr. Curtin in the Whisper Machine. And it was really great, again, because she has been stubborn this entire book, and then finally that gets to manifest itself. Which I guess Mr. Benedict could have like known that was a talent that she had and they might need her, but at the same time, she really didn't seem to have a point. However, I was really, it was a great surprise at the end, plot twist, to find out that Constance was actually only 2 years old. So throughout the story, she's been described as sleeping and eating and being cranky. And I had thought that the reason that they would give for Constance's constant crankiness so when they had turned up the power on the Whisperer machine, all of the other characters, members of the Benedict Society, began to become cranky, whereas Constance at that point started hearing the voices in her head. And I thought that it would be like, oh, well, Constance is always cranky because she was already feeling the effects of the Whisperer before they turned up its power. Um, before they turned up its power, and like now that they've turned it up even more, she can hear the voices and like, you guys are just cranky. But it seems like no, they just attributed it to her age and her being going through her terrible twos, although possibly it really could have been both of those things. At the end of the book, it was just so many warm feelings. I really like that at the end of the story, all of those little children, they had homes to go back to. All of them ended up being adopted, or Skyyy got reunited with his family, and Kate got reunited with her father. It was really great. I really, really enjoyed the story. The one thing that was never really explained, though, was at the beginning of the story when they're doing the testing, number 2 and Mr. Benedict keep lying to Rainey about whether or not they called Miss Perumal or whether or not he's allowed to call Miss Perumal, and that's never really explained, and I wish that that had been explained. So those are my thoughts on the book, The Mysterious Benedict Society. I do own the entire series. Well, actually, I don't. I don't own the most recent one that came out in like 2019, but I own the first 3 and the prequel and like the Enigmas puzzle book that's like somewhere in the middle of that. So I will more than likely also be doing a review of those books on my channel as well. Okay, thank you very much for joining me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to join the party.